Hi everyone, this video is about the cybersecurity project I'll be building in the next few minutes. This project simulates a phishing attack covering the full cycle from initial email delivery to post-compromise activities. It leverages a comprehensive set of tools, including Splunk, Snort, Sysmon, Lima, and others, to detect, investigate, and respond to malicious activity. By replicating real-world attack techniques, the project demonstrates how these tools work together seamlessly to provide a layered defense, highlighting the effectiveness of a multi-tool approach in identifying and mitigating cyber threats. It serves as a practical, hands-on demonstration of defensive strategies and power of integrated security solutions. I will now give you a quick overview of the project workflow. I am following NIST Incident Response Plan for blue teaming and cyber kill chain for red teaming. First, I'll begin with preparation phase to set up the defenses. Then I'll move into the attacking phase, simulating a cyber attack. After the attack, I will focus on detection, analysis, and response phases, showing how I handle the incident. Lastly, I will cover post-incident activities, where I will discuss lessons learned and improvements. Now let's talk about the attack scenario before jumping into the practical phase of the project. I'm working with two virtual machines, Ubuntu as the attacker and Windows as the victim. I will use Metasploit to create a malicious payload, which I will send via phishing email to the Windows VM. Once the victim downloads and runs the executable, a reverse TCP connection will be established, allowing me to compromise the Windows machine. In the preparation phase, I'll start by configuring the Snort rules to detect potential threats. Next, I'll set up Lima and write IDR rules in Lima. After that, I'll configure alerts in Splunk for detecting reverse TCP connections. Finally, I'll download CAPE, Registry Explorer, and FTK Major for forensic analysis. Now let's jump into my virtual machine to begin the preparation. Now I'm in my Windows virtual machine, where I have few Snort rules written. Just a disclaimer, to keep this video short and concise, I will be skipping some steps and focusing on key configurations and action throughout the project. Otherwise, it would turn into an hour-long video. Let's dive into the Snort rules and see how they are set up to detect potential threats. Here are the Snort rules I have written. Rule 1 detects a reverse TCP connection on port 4444 to the IP address 192.168.1.4. This is the IP address of my Windows virtual machine. Rule 2 monitors HTTP traffic on non-standard ports 8000 to 9000. Rule 3 checks for executable files in HTTP traffic on non-standard ports, looking for NZ headers. And last rule monitors standard HTTP traffic on port 80. These rules help identify potential threats and unusual activities in the network. Now I'm in my EDR, where I'm using Lima for this project. I've already integrated my Windows virtual machine with Lima, enabling advanced threat detection and response capabilities. I have written YARA rule to detect any executable files. It checks for magic bytes. I have included the same rule twice. The first rule detects executable downloaded in the downloads directory, while the second rule detects if an executable is run from the downloads directory. I have added the YARA rules to the detection and response rules in Lima to enhance my threat detection capabilities. Now I'm in my Linux virtual machine, where I'm running my Splunk server. My Windows virtual machine is set up as a Splunk forwarder, sending logs and alerts to the server for centralized monitoring and analysis. I am currently in my Splunk dashboard, where I have integrated Snort, Sysmon, and Windows System and Security logs. In my search query, I am searching all indexes for logs from Snort that contain the phrase reverse TCP in the message field. This query can be set as an alert. However, I already have an alert configured for this query, so I won't be creating it again. Lastly, I have downloaded the forensic tools for this project. As you can see, I have FTK Major, CAPE, and Registry Explorer ready for use. This tool will assist in conducting forensic analysis and investigation. For the reconnaissance part, we will assume that the attacker obtains the victim's email address from their LinkedIn profile, setting the stage for a spear phishing attack. Let's discuss the weaponization phase before creating the malicious payload. I will create a malicious payload using MSF Venom, which is a part of Metasploit framework. The payload will be a PE32 executable file. After sending the phishing email to the victim, I will use my MSF console to listen on port 4444, ready to exploit the target. Once the victim runs the malicious executable, a reverse TCP connection will be established to the attacker's machine, where the IP address is 192.168.1.5 on port 4444. Now I'm in my Ubuntu machine where I have created the payload using MSF Venom. I won't go into much detail on how the payload was created, as the main goal of this project is incident response to a phishing attack. The payload is named notmalicious.exe and it is a PE32 executable. Next, I need to host this payload. To do this, I will use Python to host it on port 8088 by running the following command: python 3 m http server 8088. This will make the payload available for download via HTTP on port 8088. Now we are in the delivery phase where it's time to send the payload notmalicious.exe via a phishing email. I'm using Gmail to send the malicious payload. I have used Bitly to shorten the URL, a technique often used by attackers to hide the actual link. I am pretending to be from tech support, and the subject of this email is immediate action required, download critical application update. This also reflects a common tactic used by attackers to create a sense of urgency. Now we are in the exploitation phase, where we will use MSF console to carry out the exploitation. I will set up the listener on port 4444 using MSF console to receive the reverse TCP connection once the victim downloads and executes the malicious payload. Now I'm in my Windows virtual machine, where we can see that the victim has received the phishing email from the attacker. As the victim, I will download the exe file and then run it via command prompt. And voila! We have compromised the Windows machine and a reverse TCP connection has been established. Now we are ready to move on the next steps of the cyberkill chain. Now we are in the installation phase, where I will modify the Windows registry and create a backdoor. After gaining access to the Windows virtual machine, I created a backdoor named backdoor in the autoruns. This means that every time the victim logs into the Windows machine, I, as the attacker, will be able to access the machine without the victim having to run the payload again. Now we are in the command and control phase, where I will send commands such as cd and ls to the Windows machine to view sensitive information from the compromised machine. Now I will look for sensitive information, including folders and users on the compromised machine, as I plan my final phase of the cyberkill chain, which is actions on objectives. Now we are in the final phase of the cyberkill chain, where I will first add a new user, then exfiltrate data, delete the data from the compromised machine, remove the user I created, and lastly, clear the system and security logs. Now using MITRE, I'm adding a new user named evil user with the password password123. We can see that I have successfully created the new user on the compromised machine. Now it's time for the attacker to exfiltrate data. I will navigate to the folder named secret folder and download the txt file named important doc to the attacker's machine. And now I'm removing the txt file from the compromised machine. After the exfiltration is completed, I will delete the user named evil user that I created earlier, and we can see that I have successfully executed the command. Lastly, I will first clear the Windows system logs and then clear the security logs to eliminate any traces of the attack. With this, we are done with the attacking phase. We are now in the monitoring phase, where I will go to Splunk to monitor for alerts, and hopefully we will see the alerts for reverse TCP connection. And there you go, we can see the triggered alerts for the reverse TCP connection. Now we are in the detection phase. In this phase, I will go to my EDR, which is Lima Charlie, to check for any detections made by the EDR, as we observed alerts for the reverse TCP connection during the monitoring phase, and check Splunk as well. And there it is. We can see few detections made by the EDR. The first one is executable dropped in the downloads directory. This was triggered by the error rule I created during the preparation phase. We can see the file path as well as the name of the malicious file, which is notmalicious.exe, and we can see the hash of the file as well. And now we can see another detection made by the EDR triggered by another error rule, execution from downloads directory. We can also see the name of the file that was executed. Now let's look at another detection that was triggered when we modified the registry and created the backdoor. The name of the detection is direct autorun key modification. We can see the command that was executed as well as the name of the backdoor. And we can also see detection that was triggered when we created a new user during the attacking phase. And lastly, there are detections that were triggered when I cleared the Windows system and security logs. We can see how powerful and essential EDR is, as it captures the commands that were executed. And lastly, we will look at the Snort logs in Splunk that were triggered as an alert for the reverse TCP connection. We can see the attacker's IP address, which is 192.168.1.5, and the port that was used, 4444. For the phishing analysis, I will download the email that was sent by the attacker. Let's talk about the indicators of compromise before moving to the analysis phase. The first IOC is the file hash of the malicious payload detected by the EDR. The second IOC is the modified register key. The third IOC is the creation of new user account. Another IOC is the deletion of log files. The fifth IOC is non-standard port used for C2 communication, which is 4444. Lastly, we have shortened URL using bit.ly. Now we are in the analysis phase. In this phase, I will use phish2 for phishing analysis, and then I will unshorten the download link. After that, I will conduct some network analysis. Next, I will go to Splunk for Sysmon log analysis, Windows security log analysis, and IDS log analysis. After that, I will check the EDR for endpoint analysis and analyze the file hash to determine if it is indeed a malicious payload. Lastly, I will perform some forensic analysis and carry out data recovery to restore the txt file that was deleted by the attacker. Now I'm in the phish2 for analyzing the phishing email. First, I will upload the email that I downloaded earlier. We can see the sender's address, the receiver's email address, the date on which the email was sent, and the return path. Next, I will copy the download link from the phishing email and paste it into the unshortened URL website. After unshortening the link, we can see the IP address of the attacker, the port used to host the payload, and the file path as well. Now I'm in Wireshark to analyze the packets captured during the attack by searching for port 4444, which was used for C2 communication. Let's analyze one of the packets. The data is currently displayed as ASCII, which is unreadable. Let's change this to a hex dump to see if we can find any useful information. We can see some strings from the malicious payload, including a line that says this program cannot be run in DOS mode, indicating that the executable is designed for Windows. Now I'm in Splunk for the sysmon log analysis. Initially, I'll search for the name of the new user that was created by the attacker. From the sysmon logs, we can see that the username evil user was deleted by the attacker. Now I will analyze the Windows security logs and search for event code 1102, which indicates that the audit log was cleared, and we can see that there has been one event. Now I will conduct some IDS analysis and search for port 8088, which we identified while unshortening the downlink. We can see that the IDS has detected non-standard HTTP traffic on this port, along with the attacker's IP address, which is 192.168.1.5. Now let's search for the word executable in the query to see if the IDS has detected any executables on the non-standard port. And we can see that the IDS has identified that the non-standard port contains an executable. Now I'm in the EDR and I'll copy the file hash and paste it into the virus total to check if the file is indeed malicious. And we can see that notmalicious.exe is indeed a malicious file, as 61 out of 73 vendors flagged this as malicious. If we go to the behavior section of this file, we can also see the IP address of the attacker's machine and the port used for C2 communication. Now, we're in the forensic analysis phase, and I'm currently using GKIT to extract the C drive of the compromised machine for triage purposes. Since I have limited resources, I will perform this extraction directly on the compromised machine. I will select the registry hives so that we can later load these hives in the registry explorer. Now I'm in the registry explorer and will load the security account manager hive. The SAM is a database file in Windows that stores user accounts and security descriptors for user on the local computer. I will check to see if I can find the username evil user, which was created and deleted by the attacker. And we can see that username evil user is still present in the SAM, indicating that we can recover user information during forensic analysis, even if it has been deleted. Now I'll load the end user hive, which contains user-specific settings and configurations, including information about user profile, logon information, and application settings. By examining this hive, I will look for the evidence of the backdoor that was created by the attacker. And we can see evidence of backdoor's presence here. It is crucial to extract artifacts before eradication, otherwise we might lose essential evidence of compromise. Lastly, I will use FTK Major for data recovery. As you remember, the attacker downloaded the txt file from the secret folder and then deleted it from the Windows machine. Currently, we can see that the secret folder is empty. Using FTK Major, I will recover the deleted txt file and export it to the recovered folder. Now I'm in FTK Major and we can see that the important doc.txt file is still present but with a cross sign, indicating that it was deleted. Now I will export this file to the recovered folder. Finally, I have successfully recovered the file that was deleted by the attacker. Understanding tactics, techniques, and procedures, known as TTPs, is crucial for identifying attacker behavior during the attack phase. Recognizing these TTPs allows SOC analysts to communicate more effectively with each other during incident response. Here are the TTPs identified during the analysis phase. The first one is gather victim identity information. The other one is user execution malicious file. Then phishing, hide infrastructure, exploitation for client execution, user execution, registry run keys or startup folder, non-standard port, exfiltration over C2 channel, file and directory permissions modification, create account, account manipulation, and indicator removal on host. We are now in the containment, eradication, and recovery phase. It's been a long journey so far. In the containment phase, the first step is to isolate the compromised endpoint from the network to prevent further damage. I will then disable the auto-run entry, which serves as the backdoor. In the eradication phase, I will use EDR tool to remove the malware and blacklist the attacker's IP address by blocking it via Windows firewall. Lastly, in the recovery phase, I will restore the compromised Windows virtual machine from the most recent snapshot to ensure it's clean and fully operational. I am now in my EDR, and from here I can isolate the compromised endpoint from the network to prevent further damage. To disable the auto-run entry, I am using an application called Autoruns. We can see the backdoor that was created by the attacker. First, I will untick the auto-run entry to disable it, and then I will proceed to delete it. To remove the malware, I will use the EDR. Currently, I am in the EDR console. To delete the malicious file, I will first navigate to the file system and then go to the downloads directory. I will look for the file notmalicious.exe. At this point, I can either download the file for further analysis or proceed to delete it. In my case, I will simply delete the file. To blacklist the attacker's IP address, I have simply blocked the IP address using Windows Firewall. This will prevent any further communication between the compromised machine and the attacker's machine. Lastly, I will restore the compromised Windows virtual machine from the base installed snapshot to ensure it is clean and fully operational. And finally, we have reached the last phase of the NIST Incident Response Plan, which is post-incident activity. This phase is crucial for reflecting on the overall process and improving future responses. The first one is monitoring effectiveness. Did the IDS, EDR, or SIEM solutions effectively identify the attack? The second one is detection gaps. Were there aspects of the attack that went unnoticed or could have been detected earlier? And the last one is response speed. How quickly did I respond? Thank you everyone for staying with me throughout this project. I hope it has provided valuable insights into the phishing attacks and effective response strategies.